Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off program. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the show, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to learn a few things tonight. My guest is Don Turner, who is the minority leader in the Vermont House of Representatives. I'm going to be introducing him to you in just a minute, but before I do, I have one quick little thing that I want to share. As you know, the true strength of our nation is not in the halls of Congress, but in the homes of our citizens. In fact, we are a unique nation of, by, and for the people. It is the individual American, the citizen soldier like you, who quietly supports the cause and keeps the flame of freedom alive by remaining vigilant, voting thoughtfully, working hard, paying taxes, raising families, and bearing the truth about the freedoms and responsibilities of what it means to be an American, who is the true foundation and lifeblood of our country and our cause. That's you and me and my guest, Don. With that, I want to introduce Don Turner. Welcome back, my friend.
Nice to see you, Linda. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here always.
Thank you.
You bring a perspective that on a daily basis, we don't have an opportunity for. So you're right in the center of the activity down in Montpelier.
Yeah, it's been a busy session so far.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. So why don't you quickly, before we get into the meat of some of the issues, why don't you just tell us a little bit about all the things that you do in this life?
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on your show. I'm very fortunate, and I've lived in Milton my whole life. My wife and I, Gail and I, have 3 daughters, so we raised them in Milton. I'm the fire and rescue chief. I'm fortunate I have a real estate team, the hometown team at Century 21 Jack. And I am the, as I said, fire and rescue chief, so that's my full-time job for the town. I also have some apartments and do some developing with my father, so we have a busy schedule, and I'm very fortunate in that I've been blessed with a lot of support from my family, friends, co-workers, and so on. So I have the opportunity to, serve Milton in the legislature, knowing full well that all these other interests are being well manned and well taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because you're a good leader and you know how to make things happen so that things work smoothly. And I know that many people are very grateful for your leadership for the minority Republican Party in the Vermont House. I hear lots of positives.
Well, that's good to hear, Linda. I mean, it's in Montpelier, it's a challenge. I mean, everybody, we all represent our constituents, and I always remind the caucus that you represent your constituents first. And sometimes, as a leader, you just got to say, I know that's their constituency, that's what they have to do. But it makes it very challenging when, we have a position or an understanding that we want to rein in spending, but there's something good for somebody's district, so they have to vote for it. So it makes it very challenging.
Excuse me.
I've got a lot of experience in this type of leadership. I've been a volunteer firefighter for 30+ years.
Wow, thank you.
And I've been the chief for the last 10. And you learn that there are more important things in life than that particular incident. Life and death is something I face. When we get called out every time. And when you go to Montpelier, the challenges are very difficult, but at the end of the day, everybody's going to go home and come back the next day to have another discussion.
Right, right.
So I keep that perspective, and that helps me move things
maneuver,
along.
Yeah,
Yes.
through. But there's been so much happening down in Montpelier, just keeping on top of everything. Now you have people from various committees report to you about what's happening in the committee, right?
Yeah.
So that helps you to keep on top.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't do any of this stuff alone, whether it's at home or in Montpelier. You know, Assistant Leader Brian Savage is very helpful.
Oh, yes.
And a very, very good member of our team in caucus. But you're right, the most important job as a leader is the dissemination of information. So you first have to get it before you can disseminate it.
Right.
So we have a weekly, every week, one member of the committee will write a small summary of what's going on. We have in caucuses usually once or twice a week. Different committees talk about what's going on in their committees, what bills are of concern, what bills are controversial, and so on and so forth. So, you know, you have to get a perspective of all of the bills, but you get deeper on the ones that are more controversial or the ones that are going to really raise some concern amongst our constituents.
Yeah, because if the members of the House at large and the Senate are doing their job, then they need to be keeping in mind, as you just said, their constituents and what's in the best interest of the people at large.
Absolutely.
That was always my concern, was first of all the people who elected me, and then the overview of the state and how what we're doing is going to affect the lives of the people or the financial status of the state or the health of the state in general. Right.
It's all, you know, you factor it all in there, but you know, since I've been leader, I've always come back to you represent your constituents first. You know, never lose sight of that. And it's a quite, and almost at every caucus, I remind the caucus that you represent your constituents first. You need to do what's best for them and then the greater good of the state. So, but it is challenging, and it's difficult to be in the minority. It's difficult to go down there knowing that what's going to happen that day is you're probably not going to change. But you have to go down there with the hope that you can raise one question that might make somebody else think. You have to hope that you can get some kind of an amendment passed. And if you can't do any of that, you have to have the ability to convey that message to Vermont, that we are doing the best we can with the numbers. The voters last election sent us back there with a 85-53 number. We have to do the best we can in that arena, and we will continue to do that. But I will not sit still, and our caucus will not sit back and not convey this message that Vermont is spending too much. We have a spending problem in Montpelier, and this majority with Governor Shumlin in charge has, you know, really exacerbated that whole spending problem.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with that. Just the fact that if your hands are tied as far as making major changes, because you have such a diversity of, you know, of members down there by party, then the next resort is to reach out to the people and let them know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And frankly, I really believe that right along that same line of thinking is let the people know that, you know, if you don't like this, then you need to speak up to the people in the legislature and say, what are you doing?
Exactly.
You know, write to them, call the Sergeant at Arms office. By the way, folks, if you have a concern about something, whether it's gun rights, I mean, there's so much going on down there now. Marijuana, the healthcare situation, the budget, we're going to be talking about those things, but you always have the opportunity and the right to call the Sergeant at Arms office. It's 802-828-2228. 828-2228.
Yes.
And just ask to leave a message for your representatives and by name, and a message will be brought to them about what you want or what you don't want about a particular bill. That's how we get involved in the process.
And it's very important. I mean, it's normal to receive one or two pieces of mail each day from a constituent or an advocacy group looking to give you information on a particular bill or so on. So but it's very important. It gives you another perspective. You want to hear from your constituents. I want to hear every day. I mean, via an email or a message or so on.
Do I keep you happy?
Yeah, yes you do. You know, one of the things that we talk about, Linda, you have outlined a number of concern and problems about the future for Vermont. You know, one of the things that I've really tried to focus on recently is there is a bright future for Vermont, but it's not with these people in charge. And that's what I want your viewers to hear, is that we can restore Vermont's future, the bright future that Vermont will have, but it's not the path that we're on today. So all of these issues that we will talk about tonight on your show, you know, are concerning, and they make us feel that, geez, is there a future? Who's going to pay for this stuff? Is our kids, our grandkids? But I say, when we go to Montpelier, and I go to Montpelier, I want to bring solutions, proposed solutions that can bend the curve, take us down a different path. But at the end of the day, I'm a lifelong Vermonter. I believe that Vermont has a bright future, and the people of Vermont will speak, hopefully this next election, and bring more balance, restore balance in Montpelier, which will start to put us on this path to this future.
Well said. And I was just thinking about something. You know, so many times, Don, the John Q. public doesn't know how their representatives vote. And it's like a deep, dark secret.
Yep.
Unless you delve into the sources that are there. Now, I don't know when, but I know that Ethan Allen Institute prints prints out the key votes and how the various legislators voted. And I don't know when that becomes available.
I don't know when that's available, but I do know that the state, the legislative website, every roll call is recorded. I mean, it's on the website. You can go to every bill. Anybody can go to any bill at any time and see what the status of that bill is. If it's a bill that's passed and there was a roll call vote, you can click on that website and you can go and see what your representative voted.
Does it indicate on the top or easily that
Yes,
there was a roll call vote?
It does. It goes, when you go down through the summary of the history of the bill, it'll say roll call vote and so on.
When introduced,
yes,
and all
so
that.
on. So that's a very good tool, I think, for the constituents. You touched on a point that we have, 150 members in the House. They're all good people. I mean, I know they all mean well. They all believe that they're doing the very best for their constituents and Vermont as a whole. Sometimes, though, they're really nice people, and they're really not representing their constituents' interest. And one of the biggest challenges I have as a leader is when I'm talking and recruiting people to run for the legislature, they say, "Oh, but so-and-so's a nice person, I don't want to beat them, or I don't want to knock them out." Well, that's true. They may be a very nice person, but that doesn't mean they're representing your interest or your neighbor's interest when they're voting in Montpelier. And we see it a lot with the majority. They stick together really tightly when they vote, and it's usually a very partisan vote on most of these issues. So I really encourage people to go onto this website, to look at these scorecards that you mentioned, Ethan Allen Institute, Vermont Chamber of Commerce, on the other side of the aisle, the Vermont Business for Social Responsibility. There's a number of groups that do these report cards, but it's absolutely essential that if you're going to be involved in the process, you have to understand what your representative is doing in Montpelier on your behalf.
Yes, because sometimes, unfortunately, what is brought to your attention by someone in the legislature might not be the whole picture.
Exactly.
Okay? They might present the part that they think is going to make you pleased, but you may not get the entire picture. I think it's vermontgop.org, is that right?
Yes, yep.
So just VT.
Oh, that's the Republican Party
Oh,
website.
I'm sorry, GP.
Yeah, the Vermont legislature is...
I'm so used to going
yeah,
there.
no, that's fine. Vermont legislative's website is Vermont Legislature. You just go to website, just Google Vermont Legislature, and it'll come up, the state website.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Vermont.gov. I think that's
Vermont.gov, but if you just go Vermont Legislature, if you put that in the search bar, it'll
See
come
how
right to the
that
website.
GOP just rolled off my lips?
That was perfect, but you won't find many votes there.
No.
And I want to make sure that we explain where you can find all of the votes.
Definitely.
Yes.
And folks, that's one of the reasons why I do this show, because I think it's so important for you to know what the resources are for you to become an informed voter. And looking at the past votes of the people who have been elected gives you a pretty good picture, if you know what those issues are about, how they voted and whether you agree with that or whether you want to replace them.
Absolutely.
So, enough on that one.
Good.
Okay. Now, paid sick leave.
Yes.
That was a little bit of a controversial issue, especially for the small businesses of 5 employees or less.
Yes.
How did that, I think, if I remember reading just recently, there's a temporary time frame where employers with 5 employees or less are excused from this bill. Why don't you explain?
Yeah, so the bill, as it says, paid sick leave, has a much wider scope than just being sick. But you're right, Linda, that there's a kind of a phase-in period. So the first year, there's a year before it goes into play. So in 2018 is when everyone will start to have to pay.
Everyone, even
Yeah,
5 or less?
There's some exemption, but 5 and less was the Senate amendment that did not pass.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so everybody's going to have to pay. We offered a number of amendments. Originally when the bill first passed the House in last session. About 2 weeks or last week, it came back from the Senate. It had made some improvements in the Senate, and that they had some exemptions. Nothing that was substantial, but they were definitely moves to improve a bill that we thought was very bad when it left the House. We had some people were going to offer some more amendments, but we understood that there was no support by the majority to allow more exemptions. And if we did that, we were putting the exemptions, the improvements the Senate made, at risk by sending the bill to a committee of conference. So in the end, the bill passed a strictly partisan vote. All of the Republicans opposed it, most of the independents, and at least 4 Democrats opposed this bill. And as you said, it's a detrimental bill to small business, not only small business, but these nonprofits, area home agency, all these people that have employees are going to see an increase in the cost of doing business. We believe that there is a need for people that are sick maybe to take time off, but we should not be creating another social program. And this social program that we're creating is on the backs of these employers. The fiscal analysis on the bill says that the first year the cost will be between 2.8 and 4.9 million, but in each year thereafter it's between 4 and 11 million per year to operate this. So again, this is another burden on top of the many other burdens that the legislature has added to small business and doing business in Vermont. And then they turn around and wonder why our economy is not growing. Why can't we grow the economy? And the answer is simple. We continue to put more and more burdens on the employer, which in the end of the day has a negative impact on our economic growth.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I just can't believe that so many demands have been put, whether it be regulations or laws that affect the way they function and the profit that they can make to keep their business going and to keep hiring people. We wonder why we have so many people on welfare.
Right. We received a number of emails from businesses, small business people.
Oh, we have a caller.
Okay,
well,
good.
just hold still for a second.
Okay.
Welcome to the program, caller. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I thought I'd call on because you were talking about paid sick leave, and I'm a Democrat, and I know you two are Republicans.
Right on.
Yes.
Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Okay, thank you.
Just to let you know, the studio that you were at, we do give sick leave to our employees. If you got good employees, you provide them with sick leave, vacation, comp time, or flex time, and then you have a halfway decent insurance. So that's one of the things that we do, and we try to keep our employees. We also did a wage adjustment and study and determined that they were underpaid. So we adjusted that. 3 days is not bad. When we used to work for the city of St. Albans, I used to get 12 paid sick days a year.
Yeah, but that's union, Dave.
Yeah.
That's a difference from a small business that's just trying to keep itself going.
I think Dave brings up a good point, if I may, Linda.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that we raised a number of times was, why is this bill needed? And we kept saying, well, 60,000 people need it. But every employer that we talked to, small business employer, bigger, larger, whatever, said that when you have good employees, just as Dave mentioned, you take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be the same from business to business to business, but we found and we believe that Vermont businesses do take care of their employees. What we're going to see as a result of this law is a diminishing of some of the benefit they got prior to this law. I had a small store. He said that he always provided lunch for his employees the entire time he's been open, over 25 years. He's got to look at that now because he's got to figure out a way to make up this additional thousands of dollars it's going to cost him in sick leave. So Dave, your point is a good one, that you should take care of your employees, and we believe in that. I believe in that.
I do too.
And when you have a good employee, you do that. But I don't believe that the state should be mandating how we do it. I think it should be up to the employer and the employee. If the employee is not happy, then that employee is free to go somewhere else. But it should be left up to the employer. And when good employers, they have good employees, and they take care of each other.
I agree 100%. I know years ago I heard this philosophy of the Japanese culture. You take care of your people and they'll take care of you.
I live that every day.
And I believe that too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
And, you know, we're just concerned about all of the stressors that are being put on these very small businesses. What, 90% or so of businesses in Vermont are small businesses? I wonder if there's anything in the bill where you have to have a doctor's note that you were ill enough to stay home.
Well, the bill allows for you, your child. It also allows for you to take an in-law or a family member to an appointment at a future date. It's a very wide, the scope of benefit is a little bit wider than just paid sick days.
Wow.
So, you know, that's one problem. The other thing, Dave, is we had tried to get some exemptions in. You know, maybe for a new business, and anybody that's viewing the show tonight knows if they've started a business, it takes a while to become profitable.
Oh, absolutely.
We were trying to get an amendment that would allow for 3 years on a startup. You know, give people time to get the thing up and running. Then they'll take care of they'll find that you take care of your employees, they take care of you.
Absolutely.
But you can't bankrupt them or they never get off the ground.
Right.
So, you know, those are the types of common sense exemptions we were putting forth that were just refuted by the majority.
I think one of the things that you guys down in Montpelier ought to look at is the wasteful spending. $8.7 million on transportation to methadone clinics. We have
no kidding.
fraud in our welfare system where people are selling their those cards and to other people. They should have pictures on the back of those cards so that if anybody is fraud, you know, they should be arrested and thrown in jail. I also think that, you know, people that are applying for social welfare should be drug tested because of the fact that, you know, if they're on drugs, then we're not going to help you. We'll feed your kids and stuff like that, but you know, we got to cut down on the wasteful spending, you know, that's going on in Montpelier. And I blame all the Democrats and the Republicans down there for the fact that it's allowed to happen.
I don't disagree with you, Dave. I think the points that you made up are some that we've been hearing and we've been proposing and I think need to become law. You're right about the wasteful spending. You know, I've been talking about this for the last 5 years. I've been leader. We have to bend the curve on spending. We got to rein in spending in Montpelier. We can't afford at the rate of growth we are today. It's just not sustainable going forward. So we've got to find innovative ways to become more efficient in state government, especially with the spending. And I look forward to hearing more of your ideas, and hopefully the majority and us can work together on really starting to rein in spending in the next year or so.
Now you sound like me, Dave.
Well, you know, I am putting out feelers out there to find out if I got enough people to support me to go to Montpelier and run against Lynn Dickinson.
Okay.
So she's a Republican. So, you know, I was up at the legislative breakfast this last Saturday and the one before, and they've got no answers for why the economy is the way it is and how they can correct it. $53 million in the hole. You know, if we took the $53 million and we take all the agencies and say, look, we got to live within our means. If you take the number of agencies divided into the amount of money that we're in debt, reduce that so it's under control. You guys down there just like got an open checkbook, and you know you spend money like there's no tomorrow, and we've got to stop it.
Well, I would like to. I'll disagree with you there, Dave. I agreed with the last points, but I disagree on this point. If you look at the voting record for Lynn Dickinson, myself, and most of our caucus, we've opposed these state budgets the last 5 or 6 years. We can't afford to keep spending like this. You say it, I say it. It's got to be done. But as long as we're in the minority, it's not going to happen. We got to bring more balance to Montpelier in order for that to happen. So
well,
good
you
point.
People are voted in by the people that in your area.
Yep.
You know, and the people have got to start smarting up, because the way it is. I'm on Social Security, and a lot of people in St. Albans Town are on Social Security. And right now we're looking at a 3.2% increase in our town education tax, BFA 1.7. We don't know what you guys are coming up with, the education tax, out of Montpelier. Last year was a 9% increase. People are leaving the state because they can't afford to stay here anymore.
Amen.
You're absolutely right. I agree with you.
So the idea is to have a balance, at least a balance in the legislature of viewpoints from different parties. So,
I think that people down in Montpelier, our representatives and our senators, ought to get their act together and say, look, we can't live beyond our means. If I've got a $500 Social Security check coming in and I'm spending $700, sooner or later I'm going to have to sell my place because I'm in the hole. You people in Montpelier got to do the same thing.
it's so easy when you're spending other people's money and no one holds you accountable except Don and the Republicans who are voting against these things, but they don't have enough people down there to really fight it.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, what you're saying, Dave, is absolutely what's happening, and that's exactly what I've been talking about for the last 5 years. And again, I'm not trying to pick on anyone in particular, but the majority controls what's being spent and how it's being spent. And we can't stop it with the numbers that we have today. So I'm doing everything I can to bring more Republicans back to Montpelier after next election.
Yeah, well, I feel this way. All you guys are, ladies and gentlemen, are up for re-election. First thing you should stop is no more lobbyist money being taken by any of your senators or your representatives, because that influences how people vote. And I'd like to hear your opinion on that one.
I can tell you it's never influenced my vote one time.
Didn't mine either, believe me.
I don't. I mean, we don't in Vermont. You don't see the money that you see in other states and in D.C. for sure.
But some
people do. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you. You asked for my opinion, Dave, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I have never once been persuaded to vote for something by any contribution I ever received. As we were talking earlier on the show, I remind our caucus regularly that you represent your constituents first. That's who I believe you should. When you're voting, you better be thinking about what they want you to represent when you vote. So that's,
yeah, but like I know that I know one particular person that took $7,000 from an oil corporation here in the state of Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say his name because, but it's all public information.
Sure.
But if that's going to influence how that person's going to vote. My feeling is lobbyists are good at providing information to help you on, making a decision. But when they get in your back pocket and you're taking money from them, it's like the devil. Mm-hmm. So if I ever decide to run, I'm going to make sure that I will not take any money from any lobbyist.
Good.
I'm going to be right over there for the people.
And again, like I said, I believe the same as you. You represent your constituents first.
And you know what, Dave?
What?
I accepted very, very, very little money from anybody, but I made it 100% clear. Say it was $100, $200, whatever, nothing, outstanding. I said I want it known that this donation is appreciated, but in no way will it affect the way I vote. I will not have anyone tapping me on the shoulder when a vote comes up and saying, "Oh, remember us?" No way, Jose. I will vote the way has been explained by Don. Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just figured I had to call in and put my 2 cents worth because I knew that you had a strong Republican on your show.
Yes,
Well,
I do.
and
Well,
I-
you should join us.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Dave's a Democrat, but he's a common sense Democrat.
Sounds like a fiscal conservative to
Yeah,
me.
he does. I always tell him. He came on the show once years ago, and I said, "Oh, great, we'll have a debate." You know,
Yep.
we didn't disagree on anything.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to some of the issues. Dave's a good guy. Okay, I would like just a little bit about marijuana.
Well, it's going to be debated tomorrow in the Senate. My understanding is tomorrow it's on the floor in the Senate. I understand that it's going to be a very, very close vote on the Senate floor.
That Senate has to go.
I understand. It has passed 3 committees in that body. Yesterday in the Appropriations Committee was a 1 vote, 4-3, I believe. I don't believe
Another caller.
that
We'll be right with you, caller.
the House portion, I don't believe that there's enough support right now for that bill to pass.
I hope not.
That's what the Speaker's saying, and I tend to believe that he is accurate, that
I hope so.
there's not enough votes to pass marijuana in this session.
Did you read my letters? Did you
I
see
did.
my letters?
I did see your letters.
Okay, we'll get back to more of that. Caller, welcome to the program.
Yes, I'm calling in regards to Mr. McAllister. He's been accused of a crime, and yet he refused to resign from his seat, and yet
Would you, excuse me,
they put off his trial after the
excuse me,
thing was done.
excuse me,
The
hello,
thing I'm complaining about.
hello, wait. Would you please turn your TV down because we're hearing both you and the TV?
Okay. All right, the TV's down.
Much-
What I'm calling about is Mr. McAllister of Highgate. He's been elected to office from Montpelier. He's been accused of a crime, and also he has refused to resign his seat. And right now, the state of Vermont is still paying him his full salary. I don't think that's right. In other words, the state of Vermont should not be paying him his full salary.
He's legally
And
still a
I think
senator.
he's being paid, what, $500 or $600 a week?
Right.
And again, I know he's accused, but again, he's refusing to resign his seat. And right now, that seat is not being occupied, but yet he is still receiving his full pay. And I don't think that's right. You know, if they should come up with a new type of change of bill here so that something like this happens, they will be without pay to the outcome of the trial comes.
All right, let's let the minority leader address that.
Well, that's a Senate issue, so I had no real involvement whatsoever in that process. The House has some specific rules to address issues maybe such as this, but it mostly would deal with expulsion from your seat. In the Senate, the Constitution deals with that as well. So I understand the the viewer's point of view. I don't have a particular position. It's a Senate issue. We didn't deal with it in the House. I believe that the process will continue on, and at some point there'll be a resignation, or the next election will come, and hopefully Franklin County will have their full representation again.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that there is no specific policy in the Senate to deal with this kind of a thing, and that even though the Senate voted to not have him participate, he's still legally an elected senator.
He, by all means, is still the elected official in that seat. But you're right, my understanding, and again, I'm not in the Senate, so I wasn't really, we had a lot of issues we were dealing with at that time. It was, we were dealing with education.
You had your own...
Had a lot of issues to deal with, and that was not one of them, and I'm thankful that it wasn't one of them. It was a very difficult situation for many, and the poor, it's just a bad situation all around. So I don't know what their they don't have specific rules, but there was some language in the Constitution that described expulsion. The Senate could have expelled him, but it chose this route instead. That was a decision that the leadership there made, and it's unfortunate that it's going to continue on until it's resolved in court or McAllister or the election. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We can't solve that for you. It's not part of our purview.
Well, I do realize that. Again, as I say, this is something that's happened for the first time around. But then again, we should come up with a new type of bill. So if this happens again, I mean, we're not paying out money as money. And right now, the poor taxpayers, it's not fair to have a lot of money that they have to account for.
Yeah, well,
And so I do not feel.
we can hear your TV, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Okay, I'm all set. Have a good evening.
Thank
too,
you for
thank
your
you.
call.
Thank you.
Good night.
That's an interesting thing, but my view is he's still legally a senator, and until the Senate comes up with some sort of a policy or a rule to deal with this type of an issue, and hopefully fairly, then he should be paid.
And I agree with you. I don't think that you can take that away from a person who's been elected and gone
Accused.
through, and he's
but
been
not-
accused, right? He's an elected official, as you said. He has a criminal, case going. There's no resolution to that at this point. The Senate acted, and maybe they ought to look at changing the rule. But at this point, that's what they did, and it's an issue that unfortunately will continue on and probably till the next election.
Okay. We've touched on that one. Now, about the fee bill,
Yes.
I'm not a fan of the fee bill because it always seems to add more spending, more fees, and although technically in law a fee and a tax are defined as different things, it's still money that comes out of the public
Yes.
in one way or another. Go ahead.
Right. Well, as you said, we've talked about a little bit on the show already, the cost of living in Vermont. From my perspective, that's probably the number one issue that I hear about every day from my constituents and as I travel around the state. We got to address this cost of living in Vermont, and it's very expensive. And people are leaving. I think one of the callers had said that. That is true. Businesses are leaving. People are leaving. And people that are here are having a hard time to just survive.
Yes.
So a fee, we started this conversation with the fee bill. So the problem is a spending problem. We've already addressed that. I've mentioned that. I think the other guy mentioned that. So we got a spending problem, but we have to address that sooner rather than later. The fee bill, as you said, it's an annual bill that comes out. And essentially the state has around 900 different fees it charges for services. And each year, about a third of them come up to be evaluated. They could go down, but they very rarely do. They can be eliminated if the service is not provided anymore. That's probably not going to happen. But generally they're raised. This year's fee bill started out as one bill, and it was a $28.2 million increase. And that is a little deceptive in that one particular fee was going up about $13 million. And that was a fee on mutual funds registering to do business in Vermont.
That's another way to drive business out, huh?
It is. I'm not sure this particular one will, but it's raising fees. And as you mentioned in your prelude here, fees are different than taxes. But in this particular proposal from the governor, it doesn't cost the state $13.2 million more to register these mutual funds. So that is truly a tax.
Yeah.
It's a tax that they're trying to run through in the fee bill on these mutual funds. So about 9 million of them are transportation, DMV stuff,
Increase on your registration.
license, your registration, your car, whatever it is. So again, we talk about the spending problem. We know that the administration of Governor Shumlin has done everything they can to bring in more revenue. $44 million last year in new taxes. Now they're looking at $28 million in new fees this year, along with about $20 million in additional taxes, and those would be the provider taxes on doctors and dentists. So
Are they going to add that?
that's a proposal this year.
Oh
Not in the
my
fee
God.
bill, but it's a tax bill.
Part of the
part of the-
age 40, not 46, that's
No,
education.
That's education. This is it's the tax bill, miscellaneous tax bill that comes out every year. The governor's proposed to raise about $20 million in fee or new taxes on doctors and dentists. And what they do is the Vermont dentists and doctors pay about $9 million, and it brings down about another $11 million or so in federal match. So again, we have this spending problem, and we're constantly, and I like to use this analogy, is you're sucking the lifeblood out of the state for certain programs, and we just keep spending and spending and spending. And we've got to stop because people can't afford to live here anymore.
No.
And we're hearing it from not only seniors, we're people from 25 to 40 years old who we need to be working and productive and raising their families, can't afford to live here. So cost of living is the most important thing for myself and many of our caucus members in this upcoming election.
I just don't get it. I think when you know how much money within a reasonable amount is projected to come into the state, given the fact that I don't know how many people have moved out. Someone gave me a number, but that sounds like too many, 10,000.
Yeah, the population in Vermont is somewhere around 620,000 people. Hasn't changed. I mean, we've seen a decline in student population and all that stuff. So, but we've had some migration of the older demographics actually into Vermont, which is we're trying to figure that out. But that's happening. But the state has remained pretty flat. I mean, we haven't seen.
Except for, Don,
Yeah.
I have some figures, old figures that I had. I'll try to be as accurate as I can, but this is a little bit ballpark. In let me see here. No, 2007, we had about 57,000 people on welfare.
Okay.
We now have 205,000.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we have on Medicaid about a third of the population, 205,000. I think that welfare and Medicaid are not the same program. The reach out
Welfare
program,
isn't part of,
well,
I mean, Medicaid isn't part of being on welfare?
well, it's a social services program, so I'm not saying it's not, but I just want to make sure that the viewers understand that the welfare program that of 56,000 people is much different than the program that's on, it's expanded Medicaid that you're referring to. That program does not provide food and stuff for people. It provides some housing. It provides all kinds of things that you would not think are in Medicaid, but that population is a different population. And I just want to make sure it's
How
not
did
easy.
it climb?
Well, it climbed mainly because of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act.
The Unaffordable Care Act.
Right, the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. It was requiring states to get people insured and make sure people were taken care of. And this is how we ended up in the part of the situation is we have, like you said, about a third of our population receive some form of Medicaid benefit. That program, though, pays for school nurses. It pays for housing in places. It doesn't just pay for health care. That's why it's so difficult to...
Why can't, excuse me,
Yeah.
why can't there just be a clean bill without all these tails on it of different things, but make a clean bill?
Yep.
And does it make sense or does it not?
I
Instead of all these little ribbons and bows on it of all different kinds of other things that get tacked on that in some cases don't even really, they're supposed to be relevant, but you know, everybody wants to get their little special interest attached on there. And Vermont has one of the most generous welfare programs in the country.
Vermont does have a very generous benefit package for...
And people know that around the country.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken with people who came here just for that, and also because we have so many programs for children.
Right. It's true. Vermont is, you know...
We're a magnet.
We may be a magnet, and we're very compassionate.
To a fault.
Almost. I believe that that compassion is taken advantage of. And as one of the callers said, welfare fraud is running rapid in Vermont.
Well, who's monitoring it?
Well,
who's checking?
There are people out there that are checking it, but you know, somebody who gets an EBT card sells it to somebody else for half price so they can buy
the
beer.
photo idea.
Exactly. It's a great idea, and I'm not sure why we aren't doing that.
Well, that would be accountability.
It would, and we need to. I mean, we need to look at it. I say we because I believe as a member of the legislature, we all should be focused on some of these issues that you've brought up, that the caller brought up. We do have to get that under control, but Reach Up, which is historically the welfare that people from 10 years, 20 years ago might know, is now referred to as Reach Up, and the Medicaid deals with all these other things that they just don't, it's just very complex. And it's complex in one way because of the global commitment. Vermont is one of the few states that has the ability to design their own. Okay, I'll try. I have worked with the Joint Fiscal Office for years.
I have a call into them now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get a better handle on it. But the way I understand global commitment works is that the state of Vermont has a 3-year contract with CMS or
the Center for Medicare and Medicaid.
So they manage it, but Vermont has a contract. And what they were allowed to do is say, okay, if we can keep our package, our spending and our outcomes within a certain realm, or, you know, that we set up today, then we can take and use that money to do more things, the federal dollars. So we could take 45 cents of state money and match it with 55 cents of federal money to do these programs. And these programs, as you said, have grown and expanded, and you know, one thing covers up another, and they don't eliminate something else, but they add something else. You know, we pay school nurses, as I said. I believe that we even pay for spraying mosquitoes in Addison County with global commitment money.
From Medicaid.
Which is hard for me to understand. And that's why I'm doing the best I can to explain it to your viewers. We need to figure out how to get a control of that and see how we're spending these Medicaid dollars on a third of our population, and we can't afford it.
It's destructive.
It is. So I'm sorry if I wasn't as clear for the viewer.
No, it's a little complicated. You're very popular. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. What's on your mind?
Carbon tax. Are you guys down in Montpelier, ladies and gentlemen, still thinking about that 88-cent carbon tax?
I can tell you, I have never thought about that, and I would never support that. And there is a member of our caucus that will support that. But there are a number of Democrats that do support it. There were 80 some odd people that signed on to the bill to introduce that.
In the House?
In the House.
Well, that's
a lot of people signed on to that. That's progressives and Democrats. So I don't, you know, it's an election year, so I can tell you it's very likely you're not going to see it pass this year, but I can tell you that that committee that works in natural resources and energy, they have taken some testimony, and you will see that bill in the future if we don't restore some balance in Montpelier as far as number of Republicans versus number of Democrats.
Also, do you know enough about stormwater runoff? About they're going to have a utility tax based on, you know, if the state of Vermont doesn't go forward in a lot of these towns, that it's called a utility tax, where the square footage of your house determines the amount of money that you're going to pay on a tax. That was brought up at the select board meeting by regional planning.
Wait a minute. This is a household?
That's not a House bill. Regional planning is talking about it now, about this MS4, which is stormwater runoff coming off of people's houses, parking lots, and stuff like that.
They would
Or
charge
they're going to
the
charge
homeowner?
a utility tax against every piece of property in the state of Vermont.
I have heard some. I have not seen a formal proposal in Montpelier for that as of right now. There are certain municipalities that do have stormwater divisions of their government. You know, like South Burlington, I know
What
has a
next?
stormwater. It is a problem. I mean, we dealt last year with the cleaning up the lake and the state's waters, which is critical, and I think it's critical to all of us. How to pay for that is going to be tricky. There is a funding mechanism sort of in place. If they build this line down the lake, this power line, TDI I believe it is, there'll be a lot of money that will come into the state to help with certain dealing with runoff and stormwater. But that proposal that you're referring to, I have not seen that introduced as of this point.
Well, you know, it's not introduced in Montpelier, but it's being a mandate because St. Albans Town has $6 million worth of stormwater runoff problems that we're going to have to come up with.
Right.
And so does another, like the city of St. Albans,
Yeah.
got the same problem.
I think that you're going to see that in a lot of places. A lot of those fees were associated with the water cleanup bill last year,
Yeah.
and that went into place. So it's going to be an issue. It is an issue. You're absolutely right. I don't know how the regional planning commissions are playing into that, but I do know that these fees are going to be a burden as we move forward.
On the homeowner.
It'll be on everyone, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I'm telling
so get your
you-
checkbook ready there, Linda.
No, it's time to pack up. It's getting to be closer and closer to pack up. Well, thanks for bringing up another lovely item.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for letting me come back on a second time. Bye.
You're welcome. Quickly, because time is running very short,
Okay.
unless you have a different topic.
No?
Marijuana, it's driving me crazy.
Yes.
The Department of Health is against it, law enforcement's against it, educators are against it, businesses are against it, students are against it, I'm against it.
I'm against it.
And yet, who's going to benefit from this?
You know, it's a very difficult question to answer. I don't know. I mean,
What's
apparently,
the underlying thing here? Because the amount of money that they think they can raise from this to help government, I mean, they are in desperation for raising money for whatever new project or service that they have planned. But this is destructive.
yes. I don't understand it. I mean, as the leader of the caucus, I make a point of trying to meet and get information on all sides of each issue. And I had a meeting with the lobbying
The
firm.
growers?
Yeah, well, the lobbying firm that's pushing this bill.
Yeah, why?
And their answer to me was, it's not as bad as alcohol. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I can't support something because it's not as bad as alcohol. And we have tremendous amount of problems with cigarette smoking. You know, alcohol it's legal, but there's problems with that. We have this opiate problem that the governor is traveling around the world, around the country anywhere.
And we have a lot
talking
of
about.
students.
We have a huge problem.
20-some% who said in a student study that they in the last 30 days had smoked weed.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
Of course it is.
Their
And-
brains.
Right, and it doesn't make sense to legalize it, from my perspective, to try to prevent it from being in the schools. Another argument was that it's too readily accessible now, and that if we legalize it, it won't be, just like alcohol, you got to go to the store and buy it. I don't buy any of those arguments. I think that we have a drug problem in this state and in this
Huge.
country. It's huge. I do not believe that legalizing another drug is the right way to go, and it's not the right way to fund cleaning up the other drug problem.
Exactly.
And that's what the governor's proposing. It's just very disappointing that with all the other issues that you had on your sheet that we're dealing with in Montpelier, that this is the one that the majority wants to drive through, if possible, and legalize recreational marijuana. I don't support it. I'm a public safety guy. I work closely with our law enforcement locally. They're not going to get any of the money from this. State police might get 25 new officers, but I know in Milton we're not going to get any money to help our police department or St. Albans or anybody else. So it's the wrong thing to do. I oppose it. I'll do everything I can, and our caucus will, to make sure that this bill doesn't pass
It's
this
a
session.
federally controlled substance, illegal
Yes.
at the national level. Why would our lawmakers want to create a law to legalize something that is federally illegal and gives a message to young people, well, if it's legal, it must be safe. And so they pollute their brains at a young age. They lose their ability to focus and concentrate, and who knows how high, they might get and be on the road. I mean, the health problems, the incarceration problems, the accidents, the education implications, the healthcare implications are so huge. Why on earth would any common sense mind even consider this?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer, Linda. I can't tell. I'm just very hopeful that it doesn't pass. And if we're fortunate and get a new governor, we're going to have a new governor next year. Hopefully it's a Republican governor.
Hopefully.
And the likelihood of this
It's
be
about
taken up
time.
again for a while will be put off. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't pass and we can keep Vermont at least not in the marijuana business, out of the marijuana
Well,
business.
the other thing is we're going to attract more marijuana users and
Homelessness, everything.
homelessness and people who sell drugs.
Yes. Yep. Well, the governor's idea was to make it where the tax is less than what the
It's a
undermarket.
pipe dream.
It is. When you pay no tax, why would you pay any tax? So the underground market is not paying any tax now. I don't know what he's thinking when he believes that we can charge 25% tax and still be competitive with the underworld. It doesn't make
Okay,
sense.
let's hop over quickly to healthcare.
Yes.
We spent 200+ million
Yes.
for a failed system.
Absolutely.
Now they hired some other company. I don't know how that's not Optum, what is it?
Optum. Yep. 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
The Optum is involved now. I mean, the system is still a disaster.
Dysfunctional.
Yep. The Shumlin administration has mismanaged this project from day one, and it's been a mess. Vermonters are suffering all around the state.
Increased
Fees. They pay for stuff they don't get. They can't change circumstances. It
and
just
try
goes
to
on.
get a doctor's
Yeah,
appointment.
yeah, it goes on and on and on and on. So Vermont Health Connect, from my perspective, needs to go. We've got to make a transition here. I say as soon as possible, but probably not before 2018, to either the federal exchange or a like-kind exchange. We have to remove the mandate so people can buy other insurance products.
Yes,
We
free
have
market.
to, we do.
Across
So,
state lines.
Yeah, so we've got to move in that direction, and we're moving that way. We've got a proposal we had drafted last week, and we're going to do everything we can to continue bringing this to the forefront.
Well, God bless you for that and for doing all that you do, Don. There's so much more we could attack, but we did the best we could in the time we had. I'll just have to have you back.
I'll be happy to come back.
And so keep up the good work. I'll be praying that some of these more common sense approaches can take hold. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you learned a lot. Please call the Sergeant at Arms office, 802-828-2228, and ask to leave a message for your legislators, any one of them, senator or House member, on any of these issues, and tell them how you feel and how you want them to vote. Thanks a lot, Don.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Take care.
Yep, you
Good to
too.
see you again. Good night, folks. Have a great week ahead. Don't forget about voting March 1st.